Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, we can see not the presentation style. We can see like your normal PowerPoint, like editing.
Oh, okay, great. Are you able to see my presentation?
Yeah.
All right, so my project was based on creating a geospatial map for activity convergence within our project. So the background is that I'm working on a project called the USAID Scaling Up Nutrition Technical Assistance, where we are helping the Zambian government accelerate progress towards improved nutrition and implementation of the government's most critical days program. That it's called MCDP2. So our project supports efforts across multiple ministries to provide coordinated and impactful nutrition programs at household level. And some of the activities that we are supporting the government with include WASH, agriculture and livelihoods, and health and nutrition. So the goal of the project was to create a geospatial map that shows where our activities across the 3 thematic areas are converging within the 13 districts. So the whole idea behind the map was to enable decision makers determine which activity may be lagging behind in terms of coverage and push more efforts towards those areas in order to bridge the gaps. So we found that in particular areas, perhaps some activities within agric are not being implemented to the fullest, or there's little to no activity. So what would ideally happen is you do your analysis and try to find the root cause and push all your efforts towards that area. So the tools are used to create the geospatial map, where Python, Folium, Pandas, GeoPandas, the Jupyter notebooks, and Excel spreadsheets just to do a bit of data transformation. The most significant change that I have experienced after implementing the project, first of all, for the work that I do. So as a person in charge of data within my organization, I will be able to easily provide answers. And when I talk about answers, I'm talking about data-related answers on where the program should focus their efforts to get the best value for money. And through this experience and coupled with the knowledge that I've gained during the workshops, I am confident that I can deliver on this mandate. And then for the organization, so after the implementation of the geospatial map, the vision is that the project will save on costs. That means they will not push resources or efforts towards areas that are doing really well. We'll have to push most of our efforts to try and strengthen the areas that are kind of weak, so that we'll be able to bring those other areas up to speed. And then for the sustainable development goals, so our project speaks to a number of sustainable development goals. And one of them is SDG Goal 6, where we ensure access to water and sanitation for all. And so within our project, we drew boreholes within the areas that we're supporting. So the geospatial maps will help us see where we put most of our efforts in terms of drilling new boreholes, and then we'll also be able to see where there are gaps in terms of water access, and we'll direct more of our efforts towards those areas for communities to access clean water. In terms of the key learnings that I've derived from the fellowship and project implementation is, first of all, under the key learnings from the fellowship, my mind has really been opened to what is possible in the area of data analytics. I've been exposed to many tools and principles that I never knew existed, such as the principles of digital development and how to work towards a data maturity model for our organization. I have learned the importance of having the buy-in of the stakeholders within the organization. This is a key component to for resource allocation, which may be in monetary form, or time or human resources. And then for under key learnings from the project implementation, being new to geospatial mapping, I've seen the possibilities. I'm able to envision how our organization can utilize the maps to spot trends and utilize the data to inform decisions that direct spending, for example, in the weakest areas. So for the next steps, my solution is not perfect, but I hope to develop it more to speak to our organization's objectives. I also intend to explore other geospatial and data analytics projects within the projects, and probably on a personal basis that will help us get the benefits for monitoring and key decision making. So with that said, I'll quickly proceed to demo the project. So this is the map that I created. So this is the map of Zambia. And what we're trying to show here is three things. First of all, we're trying to show in which areas do we have the most mother support groups. So in our project, the mother support groups are like the point of entry. These are our beneficiaries. So once we identify our mother support groups, because we're trying to reduce on stunting in children under the age of 2, we target the mothers. So we want to create as many mother support groups as possible that we'll use to deliver key messages and deliver other interventions. So in green, if you can see the background on the map, I'm showing the 13 districts that our project is currently implementing in. So we have 4 districts in the central province of Zambia. We have 2 districts in the Copper Belt. We have 4 districts in the north, and then we have 3 districts in Luapula province. So the 13 that you can see highlighted here are our project districts. So, and the green background shows the extent to which we've created the number of mother support groups. So when you look at, when you zero into this district here, this is Chibombo, you can see that we have the most number of mother support groups in Chibombo. And the lighter districts mean that we have the least number of mother support groups. So which means that we'll need to direct more of our efforts to try and create more mother support groups within these districts. And then beyond the mother support groups, we also have newly installed boreholes. So let me just close that out. So within the districts, we are drilling new boreholes to ensure that mothers and children have access to clean water. So the little dots that you can see here are boreholes. So we have a legend to the top right, which shows a scale from 0.0 to 5. So ideally what we want to see is more and more boreholes within these districts. And we can see that we've done really well in the north and not so well in the central province of
Sorry,
Zambia.
Cynthia, not to
So,
interrupt, but you have about 1 minute left, so please.
okay. Okay,
Thank you.
yeah, I'm pretty much done, but this is generally the concept. So what we want to do is map out the indicators and see which areas are lagging and which areas are really strong. And this will help us push most of our efforts in trying to bridge the gaps in the weakest areas. I thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Cynthia. That was a very nice first presentation, I think. I'm curious to see if everyone has such an awesome map to show as well.
Thank you.
So yeah, you went a little bit over time, so let's skip the questions for now. I'm sure you know, after the group, you can send chat messages to people if anyone is interested in hearing more about your project. So let's go to Dana, who's the second presenter today.
Hello, can you see?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So going in as the second presenter, also in the geospatial area. So my project is for mapping the digital divide for community-based education strategy in the Philippines in particular. So I am representing from an organization called Category, which is a nonprofit startup. And my mentor is Parvati, as you heard also during the opening remarks. Let's get started. So the business case and the overall goal for my solution is to be able to map and visualize areas with no to slow internet in the Philippines in order to help students in their career exploration amidst the digital divide through community-based programs and platforms. Zooming in career and digital divide, the status of Philippine education and employment, these are the snippets from my research. So 36% of college-age Filipinos only end up matriculating or graduating at the end of their term. And then, but this is in contrast, despite having more higher education institutes in the Philippines, which is 10 times more our neighboring countries. So the stark difference of completion rate in terms of being able to have the number with us. And in terms of decent work and being able to bridge intergenerational poverty, over half of Filipinos indicate that they are earning the same or less than their fathers did. And for rural areas in the Philippines, they earn less, amounting to around 50% and are 1.5 times more likely to be underemployed. In terms of the digital divide, which is the gap of infrastructure in terms of internet or even mobile data access in the Philippines. So from the numbers in 2020, internet users in the Philippines had tripled to 73 million against our population, which is around 100 million. So this is around 70% of Filipinos are internet users. But again, in contrast this to the digital adoption, because of net neutrality, most of the Filipinos are only accessing social media, and that is their bubble of internet. It has siloed Filipinos to accessing only a particular part of the internet, unfortunately, despite our high adoption rates in terms of internet access. So digital adoption index, we lag behind our regional peers when it comes to digital adoption. And lastly, in terms of bridging education and internet access, only around 30% of public schools nationwide have internet, meaning around 74% of public schools are unable to connect to internet facilities in their communities. And this is only shouldering the schools specifically. We don't have much status on how many communities are actually not having the infrastructure for internet. And then how Career comes in is that the idea is to be able to bridge the digital divide through community-based programs and platforms. So with Career, we are a low bandwidth community-based career development platform in the Philippines. So we just started in 2020. And our goal is to help serve underserved students in the Philippines for their digital careers and employment in the future. getting into that pitch out of our organizations, I think a requisite of it is to be able to have the student actually access the platform itself. When you say platform, it is ultimately need to be accessible by internet. So the question, but the other part of category is it's also community based. So it doesn't need much infrastructure, and we can really tap into certain communities to help them be beacons in terms of spreading our programs around their communities, even with limited access in the that certain area of the Philippines. In terms of goals and questions that we are seeking to answer. So how can we serve students from communities that are affected by the digital divide? And in terms of zooming in on my project, I will be answering where are we serving currently, and then where are we needed the most. Getting into methods and tools used, general geospatial analysis method. So tech stack is Python, GeoPandas, GeoCoder, GADAM, Volume, and Pandas. I also use Jupyter Lab and then Google Sheets for most of the data wrangling. So most of our nonprofits data are hosted in the Google Workspace already. So for open data, I have gathered the UCLA, which is an internet speed test platform that also opened their data set during 2020. So, and moving forward. So we have updated data sets on internet speeds there. And also with GADAM, which provided the administrative boundaries of the Philippines. So for the main steps, it involves data cleaning, geocoding, open data, downloading. Oddly, open data took a long while. I think it took me 3 hours to download. With the internet speeds of the Philippines, the data that I needed for this project, and then also transformation and visualization. So for the main output, the first one is consolidated, cleaned, and geocoded data. I think I have learned that this took much of my time, being able to clean it up and then consolidate it and geocode it, because the there's a gap between the geocoding in terms of getting grades that our students have inputted in their forms, and also getting the data from OpenStreetMaps. So there's a bit of hand-holding and cleaning needed. And then based from my data set, we were able to pull in around 1,000 rows of data from our different touch points. So the platform, our apprenticeship program, the leadership program, and our official partnerships in terms of student organizations. And this is a preview on the map layer for this one. As you see from Cynthia's also, with the tech stack of volume, you'll be able to zoom in and out in terms of really pinning down where are we getting in terms of schools. So in terms of data privacy, I have opted to anonymize the student information and really nail down on the schools that they are currently studying in. And then the other side of the layer of this geospatial solution is the internet speed data mapped for every municipality. So that's level 3 administrative boundaries in the Philippines. So for this one, using Q3 2022 UCLA data, and also GADAM or GADM Philippine admin boundaries. So this is the preview of that tool. So as you can see from the legend, the internet speeds in the Philippines range a lot from almost abysmal or almost 0 Mbps, which is megabytes per second internet, to only 300 Mbps. Yeah. And there are really cold spots in the Philippines where the infrastructure is not there.
So you have also about 1 minute left, like a good minute.
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Remco. So most significant change. So it would be, this is a step to improve the data culture and collection in the organization. So we're pretty early still in terms of nonprofit, but I think being able to plant those seeds early is beneficial for the culture. So standardizing data sources and collection and better tracking of the students that we already reach. And then next would be proactive reach out to communities. So the status quo of Kata Career is to be able to tap into organic reach, but in terms of knowing areas which we need to actively reach out and go out to, I think this will help. So it's having a sense of priority in terms of where do we need to target, and also empower those types of communities who we know the context. So we know the context that they have minimal internet, so we're able to better understand and target or tailor the services for them. And then lastly is to surface the landscape, being able to see visually on what areas need improvement in terms of our mission in bridging education and careers, and also to empower data-informed decisions across the organization. Having a geospatial map will help not just the community team, but also be a bridge for strategy and also our product team and even our marketing team to be able to see where do we need to target. And lastly, the key learnings is be
So you have
able,
like 10 seconds. Sorry, we need to
being
go
able
because
to know the stakeholders in the organization. So importance of getting support in the team. So a few of them are here. Thank you. And then identifying the end users and being able to tailor the solution for that. And then the ecosystem for data for good, learning DIAL and DBG practices in this fellowship, and also giving it openly to share back what I have learned. And then lastly is to sharpen the solution to maximize value and impact. So mentorship guidance and also being able to build out the project into a more sustainable solution, maybe even hosting it in a web app. So that's it. Thanks.
cool. Thank you very much. Yeah, sorry, we need to stick to time because we're already, I think, 20 minutes behind because Parvati took a little longer in her introduction. But thank you very much for that presentation. And again, I'm sure people can find you on the chat if they have any questions. So then third, we're going to Frank. So please go ahead and share your screen.
Yes, thank you very much. Can you confirm if you see my screen?
We see your screen.
Thank you very much. My name is Frank Thomas from Tanzania with WFP, World Food Program. My project is Resilience Project MAP, and this project is looking at mapping the entire resilience program that WFP Tanzania is doing. And the resilience project involves creations of assets, and these assets includes water, irrigation canals, water ducts, and domestic and livelihood water points in the semi-arid areas like Dodoma, Singida, and Simiyu. So my project is looking to map these initiatives, and this project started in 2013. Speaking of resilience, to make you understand, resilience is a way to help beneficiaries mitigate negative effect of climate change. So for my area of study, which is in Kongwa, which is located in the capital city of Tanzania, Dodoma, which currently from the previous census has 3 million people, which is around 5% of the total population of Tanzania. The area, Kongwa, has 22 wards and has a big problem with water because it's very semi-arid. And WFP has been constructing these infrastructure. We call them assets. And these infrastructures, they have to transfer water from the water sources to the villages. And to locate this is the business case that I am bringing on. How can these structures be correctly located? Because you have a lot of villages, you have a lot of peoples, and you have to locate them precisely so as they can be useful and sustainable. So to do that, we have been using a lot of tools, but recently we collected data using drones, and we were analyzing these data from drones, and we were looking at vegetations, and we were looking at the infrastructure that are already existing. We were looking also at houses that are already existing in the areas, and so as we can start. So to do that, we did a scoop mission, a quick one in 2 weeks, and where the project were able to start with existing fund. And these are the pictures from Google Earth, and these are the pictures from drones to show you the villages, and there you can see the vegetations. It's very, very dry area. They only receive rains less than a month. I can say the month of October and December. The rain stop until the other year. So these infrastructures are very important to enable agriculture activities to continue. So by using these images, it's possible to now locate where these irrigation infrastructures will be going. So my project, by using the tool that I have mentioned here, we are going to show where these infrastructures can be highly located by also looking at things like NTVI, the normalized vegetation index. So as we can say here, it's important, and here we can consider other projects. The most significant change that I would see, we will be able to rehabilitate a huge land, and by rehabilitation of land, we will increase the productive land. Therefore, we'll be achieving SDG2, that is ending hunger. The most learnings I have learned is that the collaboration between the government, the private sector, and colleagues who are implementing this project is very important. So following the learnings from this course or this fellowship, like how to bring the stakeholders together, has been very important to make sure that this happened. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll end here.
Thank you very much, Frank. You stayed within the 5 minutes, so thank you very much that we had for the presentation. So that means that we have time for 1 or 2 questions. If anyone has them, please feel free to unmute yourself and to ask a question to Frank if you want to know anything more about this project. No? Okay, then again, thank you very much, Frank, for that very nice presentation and very nice project. That sounds very promising. So then we go to the 4th presentation, which is, that's a very hard name to pronounce, Jochonia. Sorry for completely mispronouncing this.
No worries, it's Jochonia Nzomo.
That makes a lot more sense. But please feel free to share your screen and start your presentation.
Okay. Hopefully you can see my screen.
Yeah, we can see it.
Yes, so my project was on using classified proxy means testing to determine vulnerability of household at risk of not realizing universal health coverage in select counties here in Kenya. And basically, I have a current situation whereby we have a policy that recommends that households need to access health services within a 5-kilometer radius. And we as AMREF, we have a lot of huge data that we have a lot of huge data at the community level. The data is in terms of the social demographic. We also have some data on the health aspects. So again, one of the reasons leading to me doing this project is that it is not clear how these populations are limited in terms of being able to access health services within 5-kilometer radius, as defined by MOH and also by the WHO. And again, we also have some property scores which are difficult to interpret. So the solution was to make it simple for people to be able, by introducing a classification into the already existing model. And that would mean we'll end up with web contacts for each and every household that we collect data on. So the short-term solution is I've been able to develop a dashboard to show this situation. But again, there's a need to, in the midterm, to have a facility placement recommender tool. So the business case is that we don't want these already poor people to still dig deep into their pockets. So when we identify if they are at risk of working long distances to seek care, then in order we are addressing the out-of-pocket expenditure that they may incur. And again, we'll have a simplified approach for the people working at the social department, social protection department, or even NGOs to be able to understand how then do you target these communities for social programs. So in terms of methods and tools, we have our data, we have a mobile application tool, we call it Mjali, that was used in collecting some household poverty data. It was a lot of data, there was socioeconomic data, but basically for this project, the focus was on the socioeconomic data to be able to determine the vulnerability of our household. In addition, I've also used some data from Kenya Health Information System. It's an open source data to be able to get the facility geolocation data. So in terms of my approach, I did some data collection, some cleaning, the classification of the poverty scores. I did some enrichment from the other external open source data, and then finally visualization. The tools that I've used Python for BI and also other geolocation providers to be able to strengthen the data that I have. These are some of the people interested in the proposal. These are people that I work with. They wanted to understand how these poverty scores can be categorized to demonstrate how disabled people are affected. Again, we also had someone called Bill Olwenda who also wanted to know then once we streamline this, how then can we be able to scale up this approach. In terms of the work that I do is the most significant change. I think this fellowship has impacted me with a skill to be able to understand the business problem, analyze it, and bring forth the right resources to solve it. Meaning for every business case challenge that you're faced with, you need to be able to analyze and know what resources that you need. I think this fellowship has provided me with that. So in terms of people benefiting from this solution, the categorization of the PMT scores will make it easier for scale up and adoption. And again, this solution is also addressing SDG number 3.81, which is on coverage of essential health services and also on reduction of catastrophic health spending. Then finally, in terms of my key learning, there's a need to align with consumers on innovation to ensure that it solves their desired needs. This solution is targeting people working at the county governments, specifically people at the social departments, and also NGOs that have social programs. Again, there's a need to improve data quality. That is some observation that I made when I was looking at the data, so that we can have informed decision making. And again, you cannot always collect data. It is costly to collect data. So there's a need to leverage on open source platforms. And I think that is what I was able to do. So let me briefly show you my presentation. So after doing all the analysis, I was able to classify. So this project, I mentioned to you that it was in 6 select counties in Kenya. So I was able to group these counties in terms of their vulnerabilities, being very poor, being poor, middle, or better off. And these counties are in 2 clusters. You have counties in the rural, and also you have counties in the urban settings. So these are the 3 counties that are in the rural settings. And after all the analysis, we can see that now it is easier for people to be able to understand for the household that are in those counties, what number or percentage out of those that you sample are very poor, are poor, middle, or better off. Then finally, so as to accommodate the issue of distance, and also in terms of how vulnerable the wealth class of a household relates to influences the kind of out-of-pocket expenditure, anticipated out-of-pocket expenditure that a household may incur. So I also introduced this wealth class, and this is distance in kilometers, and ideally they should be within a 5-kilometer radius. So we can see, if we look at this one, for example, is that you can see we have like 20 households that are within 6-kilometer radius. Those are very small households, and this number increases as you go down the scatter plot. In addition, so this is filterable. You can observe by whichever parameter that you want. Let's look at poor people, households that have been classified as being very poor. And when we look at this one, you can see again, we have few households that are within the range. But again, we can also see that we also have some bit of more households that are also not within range, more than 14 kilometers radius. And what that means is that these already poor households will have to dig deep into their pockets so that they can afford the kind of care that they need. And you know, access to care is not just going to the hospital. There are some cases that are expensive, like chronic diseases, which may again lead to these people incurring extra costs. So finally, I think it's good for me to mention, as part of my next steps, is that there's a need for us to come up with an optimization model, so as to, despite these limited resources that are already there, how then can we come up with an optimization model that can advise people on the least amount of time that you need to take for you to reach your health facility. And again, there's also a need to improve on the village mapping, and also leveraging on the open source data. And again, I only have a few proxies for poverty mapping. So there's also a need to also look the open source to see then if things to do like electricity, water supply, fuel, if they can also help improve on these analysis. And you know, in that way, you'll be cutting costs in terms of being able to understand the really stress issues affecting people at the community level. So that's the end of my presentation. Over to you, Remco.
Excellent. Thank you very much. That's again a very interesting presentation. Any questions at this point from anyone? No, then so I just checked with Parvati, and we have a bit more time to finish all the presentations. So I would suggest that we stick to the schedule and have a quick 5-minute break for people who need to go to the bathroom or get a glass of water. It's 4:09 on my calendar here. So let's meet back at 4:15 and do the last 3 presentations. So see you all in 5 minutes again. Right, so I hope everyone is slowly coming back in from their break. But Marieke, you're next. So if you can share your screen already, then at least we can get set up. And I'm sure that people will be there when you actually start.
Can you see it?
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, welcome back from the break. My name is Marieke. I work as a researcher for Oxfam Hub in the Netherlands. And before I share about my project, I just want to say a big thanks to Constantine and Claudia, who have been supporting me with this project. Yeah, so my project is about sentiment analysis on Instagram. So Oxfam implemented a new brand identity last year, 2021. And implementation focus, it focused specifically on Instagram. So with this project, I wanted to see if we could use text mining and specifically sentiment analysis to provide input in the evaluation of the brand campaign. And a second objective was also to look into to how to grow our supporter base, but given time limitations, I'm primarily focused on the first objective. Methods and tools used. So first of all, I needed to access the data. I used the Insta API, which is an API to access the Instagram data. With just a regular Instagram account. I downloaded the timeline of Oxfam Novib and then used that as input to download all the comments on the timeline. Second step was cleaning the data. Most interesting for me was cleaning the comments. Because all the comments were in Dutch, or not all, but most of the comments were in Dutch, and the package that I wanted to use for sentiment analysis was trained on English data. So first I needed to translate the data, use the Google Translate API, and then I performed 3 different levels of cleaning of the text data, and then compared which cleaning level, so to say, was best to use as input for the sentiment model. The next step was analysis. So first I did a descriptive analysis, just the frequency of timeline activity, also engagement metrics, and the 2 metrics that are available via this Insta API are the number of counts, the number of comments, the number of likes. So I performed the descriptive analysis of that. But then most interesting for me was the sentiment analysis. So I used the Vader package to predict the sentiment of the comments. And basically this Vader model, it's sensitive to the use of emojis, punctuation, capitalization. And using this package, it predicted the extent to which all the comments were positive, negative, neutral. And together that was combined into a compound score ranging from -1 to 1. Some examples in Dutch on the slide. And then, as the next step, I needed to evaluate if the model predictions of the sentiment, if that actually made sense. So I did a human verification. So basically, myself, I went through all the data to check, to evaluate the model prediction. And for the sake of time, I just did this myself. Like usually you would need more people to do the verification of the data. Based on my own humble judgment, 3/4 of the sentiment of the positive and negative scores, it also matches with my own judgment. And for the neutral comments, it was a bit less accurate. So around 40% of the neutral comments I also judged to be neutral, but the other ones, or the 60%, I actually thought had a positive or negative sentiment, which brings me to the model limitation. So I noticed that, especially some emojis like this fire and this hand thing, the model had difficulty predicting the sentiments related to that, which also resulted in the, for instance, the only 40% of neutral comments that were actually neutral. And also the longer the comments, the more difficult the model found it to make accurate predictions. So which also makes sense. If there's more noise in your text, then it's more difficult to attach a sentiment to it. Then a sneak peek into the results. So about half of the comments that that were assessed were predicted to be positive, 1/3 neutral, 1/5 negative. But given also my manual evaluation of the sentiments, so to say, I think it's safe to say that overall the comments were primarily positive. But it does should be a bit cautious with interpreting these percentages. And here you see a visual of the situation with the old brand and with the new brand. And then I looked at the average sentiment of the comments, and you can say it's more or less similar actually before we implemented the new brand and currently. Which brings me to a final point on the interpretation of sentiment, because I really had some questions myself, like what does it actually mean? Like for instance, if we post about the climate crisis and people react upset about this, it's classified to be a negative sentiment, but actually it can also be positive that people are upset about something bad. So that is a call for nuance with really when you want to interpret this sentiment. Same for like neutral comments. people can be really critical, and then it's but they write it in a neutral way, but it's positive that they engage on the topic in the first place. So yeah, some thoughts there. Yeah, expected most significant change. So what we hope is that by using making more use of freely available data, also social media data, that we can inform our growth and targeting strategies with this, and ultimately then that campaigns and programs become more data driven, and that we can mobilize more people for a fair, safe, equal, and sustainable world. And my key learnings and next steps. So overall, I think Cynthia also mentioned this inspiration. So it was really great for me to hear about different tools and also use cases of data science in practice in a practitioner world. But specifically, yeah, I learned a lot about text mining, of course, and by doing so also improved my Python skills. And yeah, as a next step, I really hope that we as at Oxford can make more use of social media analytics, yeah, for shaping the narrative, for shaping our strategies, but also to include it in the scope for monitoring and evaluation of public campaigns. That's it. Thanks.
Hey, sorry, my my mouse was disappearing. Thank you very much. Another great presentation. Is it a hand or an applause that I see there? But if anyone has a question, then please unmute yourself and ask the question if there's anything. No, then thank you again very much. And then we go to the presentation of Maureen.
Yeah, are you able to see my screen?
Yes,
Okay.
we see it in the editing mode, not in the presentation mode yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. So my program is designing an AMREF Uganda program tracker. So this literally focuses on being able to give a clear picture of how AMREF is performing at a given particular time. AMREF currently has implements on an average of 20 projects annually across the different program areas. This is WASH, maternal health. We have now COVID vaccination, no emergencies, and human resources for health. So it is difficult to have a clear picture of how the country program is performing. The data is not always accurate because it is paper-based. And there's a lot of delays when you're requested for data for reporting. So this is affecting the nature of decisions made by management team, and it is creating burnout among the team members. Just imagine adding numbers and figures from the different documents. So what I did is to design a dashboard, and we started off in Kobo Collect by designing a data collection tool. So we had the targets in Excel, and then we went ahead to do visualization in Power BI. So most significant change I'll talk about is I'm now able to present the performance of the organization confidentially, because it is through a click of a button, I'm able to show how the organization is performing. Then the management team will be able to make informed decisions because data is in one place and it is available when required. Then the tracker is also will act as a basis for donor retention and acquisition, because it is something we'll use to report to the different donors. And also as we are doing proposals, it is something that will be really handy. Then we are able to measure the different SDGs. Our work mainly contributes to SDG 3, 5, and 6. So we are able to do that and also allocate resources very well. Then using the knowledge I've got, I'll be able to train my colleagues within the department so that they are also able to take this on further within their projects. So I'm going to show you a brief of to take you through the dashboard briefly, because the time is limited for you to just get a feel. So this is the tracker that was designed with support from my mentor. So we did this. We're able to show the different programs that we are focusing on. This is the target and what has been achieved so far. And this is the overall annual target. And this is where we are as of now. So we are able to disaggregate this data by gender and age. We are also able to see the contribution when it comes to the overall reach, which program area is performing how. And we went ahead to put slicers in case you want to have a real feel of what is happening in a certain program area. Let's take an example of this program area. You're able to see the annual target and what has been achieved and all that. So when you filter, you're even able to go ahead to see to the level of a project. You know, within programs, we have projects. So you're able to see how a certain project is performing. And you're also able to tell in a month how you performed in a certain month. So this tracker will literally help us to have a clear understanding of how we are performing. On this second sheet, we're able to show the performance trends across the different months. So this is our target. This target is a cumulative target across the different program areas per month. And we're able to see how we are performing across the different months. This can also be filtered to at the level of the projects, program and projects, but also still we are able to see how we are spread within Uganda. These dots show the different districts where the projects we implement are. I'll give you an example. Let's just filter out one program area, which is, this is reproductive, maternal and neonatal health. You see we have projects implemented within the southwestern region. We have some in the eastern districts covering eastern region and also part of the northern region. So this, with this dashboard, management will be able to clearly understand where they should focus. I'll still take you to another example, which is WASH. You see, water is really a huge problem within Uganda. But when you see currently our coverage, you see it is a small, we're literally in a few districts. So with this dashboard, management is able to focus better and they'll be able to do targeted resource mobilization for them to be able to reach out to the intended population. Thank you so much. That is it from me. Over to you, Ramko.
Thank you very much, Maureen. It's very, very nice, and it's great to see the dashboard already here in the live version and not just pictures of it. Again, any questions for Maureen at this point? No. Then again, thank you very much. And then I have to do the lovely, unusual thing of introducing myself because I will be the last person presenting in this group. So allow me to share my screen there. And you can see it, right? My screen?
No, it's not visible. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
now it
it
is.
Yeah?
Now it is.
Okay, cool. Excellent. Thank you. So my project is around stunting data that we have at Max Foundation and seeing if